Your Raspberry Pi is set up. Now let's make it actually watch the sky. In this video, we'll install Indi-Allsky, the software that runs your Allsky camera and captures the night, step by step from a fresh Pi install to your very first image. If your Pi isn't flashed yet, part 3 covers that. Otherwise, power it up, plug in your camera, and let's install. Okay, we are now at a point where we are ready to connect to the Allsky Raspberry Pi. So in order to connect to it remotely, you will use a program called Secure Shell. And the way you access that program is you'll just fire up a command prompt, and we'll type in SSH, and then the format that how you connect to the username Allsky at, and then a host name, which is also Allsky. So on my setup, if you'll recall, when it asked me for the user that I wanted to use, I chose Allsky, and the host name we set up was also called Allsky. So it's Allsky at Allsky. If you used any other format for the name and the host name, you would use whatever username you created at whatever host name you created. So my example will follow through with that. It's Allsky at Allsky, and we'll hit enter. And then basically what this is telling you is you've never really connected to this machine before, and this is the fingerprint that it's offering for security. Basically, do you trust this? And on this, since we do trust it, we know it's the machine in the next room, we're going to say yes. We'll hit enter, and you won't be prompted for that again. Enter yes on that. It's pretty much saved to a file that retains the fingerprint. And then of course we need to type in our password, which we use that super secure password of password. And then as you type your password, it's not going to echo to the screen little stars or anything like that. It basically just goes into the void, but as long as you typed it in correctly, you can hit enter, and we did, so it's letting us into the system. Now, in order to start the install, there's a website that you can go to where the developer has provided step-by-step install instructions, and I'll provide a link to that below. And basically, if you just want to follow his script, I'm going to be following it. I'll just copy and paste the commands that he's put on there. He has all the individual steps. You can go to that link and just follow the steps as I'm doing them here. So the first thing he has on his setup is to set up your locales, and you don't have to actually do that one. That's completely optional, and I'm actually going to skip that one. So I'm going to skip to step number 2. So the first thing we want to do is we want to do a sudo apt-get update. So I'm copying off his page, pasting it here, sudo apt-get and an update. And this is verifying that we have all the latest info from the Raspberry Pi servers. Basically things that we need to get updated on the machine, and depending on the speed of your internet connection, you'll probably be much faster than mine. I'm on a relatively slow Starlink connection out here in the sticks. Okay, so that part's finished. We'll go up our next command, and it is sudo apt-get install git. Now git is a program that basically handles software repositories. So what this is doing, we're basically ensuring that we have the git program available so we can clone the software over to our machine. So we'll run this sudo apt-get install git. We probably already have it installed, as most Linux distros already do. So it's basically telling us we're good to go. We don't need any updates on that. If you did have an update, it would have updated at that point. Now we are going to clone his repository. So we will copy the next command, paste it in. We're saying git clone, and we're cloning his entire software repository for the install. So copy paste that, hit enter, and you'll see it copying a whole bunch of files, and this will take a little while. Okay, so that part's finished. We've got the repository cloned over to our machine. So now we are going to change to the Indi-Allsky directory. So if we type in cd space and we hit Indi, we type in Indi, and if you press tab, it will autocomplete, because that's going to be the only Indi-Allsky folder that we have. So it autocompletes as you hit tab after you type part of the name. Hit enter, and now you're ready to start the setup process. So to start the setup script, we will hit /setup.sh. So it's going to be /setup.sh. We hit enter, and we'll have a little menu option to continue. These are all the settings it's going to use by default. Say OK, and then it gives you a 10-second opportunity to break out if you don't want to continue. So otherwise, just wait the 10 seconds and you'll continue with the menus. Okay, so now this is where we're going to select the camera that we've currently got installed. One thing I can show you, I'll show you in just a moment, how to verify if the camera is actually installed. You could actually do it prior to running the setup script. But on this particular setup, I've got a PyCam HQ that's connected to the Raspberry Pi. So we're going to choose this one. Basically, we just kind of use our arrow keys to move to the camera system that we want to install. I'm going to use live camera. So I've got it selected. Now I hit the space bar. That puts a star in there. That actually selects the camera system that we're using here. I'll tab over to OK. We'll say OK. Now the PyCam HQ is an IMX 477, so that's selected at the very first option. Hit space to put a star to confirm your selection. Hit OK. And let's see, do you want to upgrade all your system packages to the latest versions? We can say yes. We probably already did that with the previous updates, but we will go ahead and say yes to that just to make sure that we are running the latest builds of everything. Okay, so this message, when we just drop back out to command prompt, what it's telling us is that there's some additional packages that we have to run in order to be able to install the live camera scripts in order to make those run the binaries for that. So we need to run this command. It's going to be this .miscellaneous build Indi-Allsky. And there's a way that we will do this to where it doesn't take quite as long as if you were installing every single bit of the drivers. But the command that I wanted to show you to verify that your Raspberry Pi cam is actually connected, you want to just make sure that the cable is connected correctly and all that. So if you type in RPI cam dash hello, and we can say dash dash list cameras, this will show you your camera either is connected or it's not. So if we type this command, and it shows us that it does detect the IMX 477, which is the PyCam HQ. So we're good to go on that. But now let's go back to the command that we need to run in order to be able to continue our setup. So it's this command here. We're going to select that, and we'll right click. When you right click it, it copies it to your clipboard. So now we get down here, we can right click again, it pastes it for us. So we'll hit enter. And it's basically kind of showing some of the same information we saw with the setup, but it's showing you the details that it's going to have. It's going to ask for each one of these prompts, so we'll say OK. And again, you get a 10-second timeout period to break out. Okay, now on this part, if we choose automatic, it will install the third-party drivers and all that. We really don't need that, not with the PyCam HQ. Now, if you're running one of the cameras that is a true AstroCam, like the ZWO, the Player One, any of those models that are true Astro cameras that connect via USB, then you will want just to go ahead and choose the automatic. But that does take considerable time because it compiles a whole bunch of other drivers that we do not need with our PyCam HQ. So I'm going to choose manual on this one. And we're only doing that only because we're running the PyCam HQ on this build. So we've got manual selected. We'll say OK. And then we've already checked the latest versions. We're going to say no on this one, just to speed things up a little bit. So it's going to go ahead and pull in some supporting files that it's going to need to have in order to complete these other setup processes. So this, depending on the speed of your internet connection, will determine how long this is going to take. Okay, so on this menu option that we have, this is where we can select the faster option for our particular setup with the PyCam HQ. We're going to choose the only Indi core. So we choose that, hit spacebar to select it, and then we'll tab down to OK. And this just only installs the Indi core. It bypasses the third-party drivers and things that would need to be compiled, which would add considerable time if you don't need it. Okay, and we will choose what the recommended version is. Okay, so it's finished all of the Indi core build install. So now we will jump back into the setup. So our command is ./setup.sh. We'll hit enter. And again, we'll get the little banner telling us what the settings are going to be. Okay, we'll select our live cam, spacebar to select it, tab OK, select the IMX 477. Okay, we'll say no to this just for speed. And the setup process will continue from here. Okay, now we're being prompted to install any additional Python modules. And let's go ahead and say yes to this because you might not need them right away, but they are nice to have later once you realize what they offer to you. So we'll say yes to this. And then you definitely want the GPIO Python modules. Again, if you're new to this, you might not use them right away, but when you see what other people are doing with them, you'll think, yeah, I really want that. So we're going to say yes to that. Okay, on the GPS driver, we're going to skip that one for now. We do not have an actual GPS device connected to our setup, so we'll skip that. And this next prompt is, do you want to require authentication for just to view the Indi-Allsky website? If this is on your home local network, any family member can connect to your Indi-Allsky setup and only view the latest images and some of the videos and time lapses, things like that. If you say yes, then anybody that tries to access your site in your household will be prompted for a username and a password, which would be highly inconvenient. Now, you will still be prompted for a username and a password if you try to modify the system. But for this, we're just going to say no. And then do you want to configure OIDC? We're going to say no to that. Okay, now this is important. I'm pretty sure this will help determine when your sunrise, sunset, so that the system knows based on your location at what times to maybe switch between day mode and night mode. So you need to try to be as accurate as possible on this. You can go to any like Longitude, I think .com or something like that. Just Google lat long, and there's plenty of sites that will come up where you can put in your location information, and it will tell you what your latitude and longitude is. Now, I would not recommend putting in your exact home on this. Just try to find maybe a nearby landmark or a large city near you. As long as you're within the vicinity, the numbers will be accurate enough. But I'm just going to leave these as default because this is just a test system that we're building now. So I'll hit enter and then enter again. And then our geographic areas are the Americas. And then time zone is correct, Chicago for me. Okay, now this is where we're going to specify our username that we're going to log into the Indi-Allsky web service or web server. So I'm going to just use Allsky again. Same thing as my Raspberry Pi login. We'll just type in Allsky, enter. And in the password, we'll use that really strong password of password. And type it again to confirm it. You can put in your full name here. We'll say Allsky. We'll say OK. You can use your personal email address. I'll just type in mine, but I'll mask it. And we'll say yes. Let's go ahead and restart the Indy server. And then we're going to say no to the MQTT broker. It's a pretty good data exchange service, but we're going to leave it disabled for now. And then do we want it to start automatically when it boots? Absolutely yes. And we would like to start it now. Yes. And then this is one where you remember the LEDs that I was pointing out earlier when you could see the activity, like the SD card being read. This gives you the option to either turn those on or turn those off. On my Allsky enclosure, the lights are kind of obscured down lower in the system, so they will not reflect any light up into the dome. So I'm going to say to do not disable these because I find these useful for troubleshooting things. So we'll just say no to this for now. And we like the system D watchdog daemon. Yes, we do. In case it gets hung up, it will automatically reboot itself. And yes, we do want to apply the optimizations. Yes, we do want to disable the GUI. The GUI does use some resources. For the most part, you're never really going to be inside of it. So we'll disable it. You can always turn it back on later. Just Google how to turn it on if you decide you do need it. So we will disable it now. Okay, so that process is completed. Now the next thing we need to do is just fire up our web browser and we'll go to the Allsky server. And this is basically the address. What it's telling you right here, that it recognizes your host name. And then this is the path inside the web server directory that we'll go to. Okay, now that we have our Indi-Allsky installed, let's go ahead and open up a web browser, and we're going to go to our host name that we've set up for the Raspberry Pi. So we'll type in https:// and my host name is Allsky. So I'll type that in, hit enter, and then you'll get a message about your connection not being private. That's because the server uses a local certificate, which is not really tied to the name. So that's fine. We'll say advanced and then proceed to Allsky. All right, so it looks like we've got a good picture on here. This is at my workbench. You can kind of see some different options. You'll see the overlays, different things you have available, the moon status, smoke, anything like that, time and date. Now, because you're not required to actually log into this, remember we set that setting to where family members can log into your Allsky, but they can't make changes. So they do have options to look at the basic images, time lapses, things like that. So if we choose latest, that'll show the most recent picture. Loop, you can set this for like how far you want to see back, and it will do the mini time lapse. You can look at your gallery. This will show your images that were captured through the night. And here you go. Here's a bunch of images that captured just looking at my ceiling. And just kind of other information you can just click around and kind of see what's available in here. So now if you need to make changes, this is where the login is required. So down here at the bottom, we have a login option. So we'll choose login, and we'll type in our username and password that we set up during the Indi-Allsky setup. This could be different than your Raspberry Pi login if you use different credentials. So we've used the same username and password across all the installs. So we're going to say Allsky and password. Okay, and now you have some new options on here. You have system. Now, system is where you'll make configuration changes such as gain, how long you want your exposures to be. So we'll click on that. And you have max exposure set to 15 seconds on here. And then you could have minimum, maximums. I'm not going to go through every single tab on here because this would add an hour to the video, but the developer's website, you can go there and just see all the different parameters. He has very good documentation that explains pretty much every one of these tabs. There's also a very active Facebook group. It's called Allsky. You can go in there and ask questions there. You'll normally get some pretty good responses from most of the users. Everybody's pretty up to date and up to speed as far as all the settings that you would need to adjust, especially if you're new to this. So we'll look at this next one, the image tab. Do you want to turn on or off daytime captures? A lot of these are just toggles to enable features, disable features, or change certain values. So that, as I said, I'm not going to go through every one of these. It would just take too long. So the main thing we're looking to verify was just, is our camera capturing? And yes, it is. So we were good to go on this. If you see your camera on the screen, you've successfully completed your Indi-Allsky server setup. And that's part 4. Indi-Allsky is installed and you've got your first frames confirming your camera is working. Now for the satisfying part. Part 5 is already up, where we assemble and seal the whole enclosure. Dome, seals, Pi camera, all of it. Have your printed parts, your O-rings, and your hardware ready, and click straight into the finale, linked right here. The full series is live start to finish. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in part 5.